everyone, welcome back to my channel, Everlynn's Books and Tea. We are almost at the end of August, and for today's video, we are going to be doing a 48-hour reading vlog, readathon, whatever you like to call it, where we are going to read as many books as we can in 48 hours. I am very excited to do this because I'm hoping it's going to help me get some of the books that I still have left on my TBR for August read and completed so that I am more likely to finish this TBR by the end of the month. So we'll see how that goes. So you may be wondering how we are going to choose the books for this 48-hour reading vlog. So what I've done is I made a list of 10 books that I would like to read during this readathon, and we are going to ask ChatGPT to match each book with a song. And then we are going to put all those songs in a Spotify playlist, hit shuffle, and whichever song comes up, we will read the corresponding book. Then after we have read that book, we will see how well ChatGPT did at picking a song to represent that book. So this could be very interesting. I have not tried this out before. I got this idea from, I think it was one of Sarah Caroli's videos, where she used Spotify and kind of match books based on songs. So we're gonna mix up a little bit by using ChatGPT, but I'm excited to see how this turns out. All right, so the 10 books we are going to do, 5 of them are on my TBR. They are City of Glass, A Fragile Enchantment, The Final Empire, Hooved Homicide, and Picking Daisies on a Sunday. Then we have Nine-Tailed, which I put on this list for a book that was released this month. I have The Villa, which is a book to represent summer. And then I just chose kind of 30 random books that are on my Kindle that I haven't read yet. And they are The Scottish Ladies Detective Agency, The Atlas Paradox, and The Night Raven. So we'll see which books we end up reading for this readathon. The one book that I am most nervous about is the Mistborn book, the first book in the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson, because it is over 600 pages. So we'll see if we end up getting that. I guess it'll be good because at least that will knock it off of my TBR. So we'll see what happens. All right, so what we need to do now is to match these books to songs. So let's get into ChatGPT and ask it to choose a song that is representative of each book. All right, so I pulled up ChatGPT and let me just paste the books on here and we will ask it the question. All right, so here's the 10 books. So what we are going to ask ChatGPT to do is to match each book to a song that is representative of its plot. So let's go ahead and see what it says. All right, so ChatGPT has given us our list of songs. Most of these songs I don't recognize, but let's take a quick look down the list because some of the reasons that ChatGPT is using for these songs are quite interesting. So first off, we have City of Glass. ChatGPT chose Shadows by Lindsay Sterling. For A Fragile Enchantment, we have 1,000 Years by Christina Perry. Next up, we have the first book in the Mistborn series, and ChatGPT chose Uprising for this. For Hooved Homicide, I was wondering what was going to choose for this one. We have Bad Moon Rising, and ChatGPT chose this because the song's ominous vibe fits well with the mystery involving crime, especially with the intriguing Hooved twist. For Picking Daisies on Sundays, we actually have a song I fully recognize, and that is Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. For Nine-Tailed by J.C. Lee, we have Myths, we'll have to see. For The Villa, we have House of Jealous Lovers, which based on the plot, this might actually be a good fit. For The Scottish Ladies Detective Agency, this one made me laugh, we got A Scottish Soldier. Not sure how that one will go with the actual plot. For The Atlas Paradox, we have Cosmic Love. And then last, we have The Night Raven, and guess what? It chose a song called The Raven. So some of these sound like they may be good fits. Some of them sounds like they just looked at the title and chose a song based off it, which I'm not surprised because ChatGPT, I think, was last updated a couple of years ago. So for the newer books, it probably doesn't know much about them, if anything at all, and it's just going off the title. So those are our songs. Let me take a quick second to put them all into a Spotify playlist, and then we will see what our first book of the readathon is going to be. I'm trying to put Myths by Kesha in here, but I can't find it, so I'm going to ask ChatGPT if that is a real song. Anyone know? All right, so for whatever reason, I cannot find Myths by Kesha on Spotify, so I'm going to ask it to choose a different song for that book, which is Nine-Tailed. So let me ask ChatGPT to choose a different song. All right, so instead we are going with Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush because the song's haunting and mystical quality complements the themes of mythology and the otherworldly. So we'll try that one instead, Running Up the Hill. All right, I'll be back again. All right, so we have all our songs in our playlist. We have shuffle turned on. So we will hit play, and then whatever song we get, that is a book we are going to read. The only books I'm hoping not to get on this first round are Mistborn and City of Bones, just because they are the longest books on this TBR or on this reading list. And I don't want to start off with one of the longer books. I would like to start off with a maybe shorter book just to get, myself going. And then after that, we can go for those longer books. So here's hoping for a good one. All right, so when I hit play, it's actually going to come up on this corner over here. I'll circle it where it has Crash Adams playing right now. I just pulled up a random song so that we can see where it shows up. And so whatever song shows up there next is the book we are going to read. So here we go. We are going to hit play and see what happens. All right, so we have Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. So we'll be kicking off this reading-thon with Picking Daisies on a Sunday. Here we go. We'll be reading Picking Daisies on a Sunday for our first book, which I'm excited about. This is a nice romance novel, so it'll be a good way to kind of get this reading vlog kickstarted. And it's about a woman who fell in love with her best friend, and then they kind of separated because her best friend didn't have the same feelings for her. And she ends up meeting him later on in life, and he asks her to be a fake date to the wedding, and she kind of starts having feelings for him again. So it sounds like an interesting plot. I'm excited to get reading, and we'll see how good the Here Comes the Sun fits the plot of this book. I'm thinking not so much, but we'll see at the end of the book. So I'll check back in from the comfort of my living room in a little bit and let you know how this book is going. So I'll see you soon. All right, so I have been reading for about an hour and a half now. I started at 12, it's now 1:30. I'm about almost 100 pages into this book and figured I would give you my thoughts on it. I'm recording this off of my phone now because I'm upstairs in the living room, so there might be a little echo too, so sorry about that. But when I was setting this up, I held a button way too long and almost called emergency services on myself. So I think I stopped it in time, but if someone shows up at the door, that would probably be why. So I think we're okay though. So let me tell you what I'm thinking about for this book so far. So first off, this book is only told via the female's main character's viewpoint. And her name is Danny, though some people call her Daisy. Is her mom, her former best friend Levi, and I guess there's one other person, which I don't know who that is. All right, so the book starts off with just a quick, what's the word? Not backdrop, but a quick trip to the past where we find that Daisy has fallen in love with her best friend Levi, and she ends up telling him this on the day before they graduate high school. Levi does not share those same feelings, and Daisy is left brokenhearted, and they end up just never seeing each other again until now. So the book then flashes forward to the current timeline where Daisy is a senior in college, studying to be a design fashion major, and she is at a bar with two of her closest friends now when she drops something on the floor. She bends over to pick it up, and then when she stands up, she hits her head on a glass of beer, which of course happens to be held by Levi. So for the first time in 4 years, they have just met each other, and kind of all the awkwardness starts occurring at that point. This is the fastest fake dating book I have read. I don't read a lot of fake dating, not that I have anything against that trope. I just haven't read a lot of books with it. And I feel like this is a very quick fake dating. The fake dating starts on page 19, which is why I'm fine with telling you guys, because you can't really spoil too much of a book when you know that's the theme, and it starts so early on. So the fake dating starts at page 19 because Levi, ex-girlfriend, comes into the bar, Bella, and he kind of, it's a weird situation where Daisy feels like Levi still loves Bella, but Levi doesn't seem to want to date Bella again, and is using Daisy to become a and is using Daisy. All right, let me try this again. This is very, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time explaining this. So, Daisy and Levi have just met at the bar. Great. Bella, who is Levi's ex-girlfriend, ends up showing up at the bar as well and comes over to say hi to Levi, kind of hanging all over him. And based on Levi's response to this, Daisy feels that he still has feelings for Bella, but instead of going forth with those, Levi ends up telling Bella that he's dating Daisy, and apparently Levi's sister is about to get married, and Bella asks if that means Daisy's going to be at his sister's wedding, and Levi, of course, has to say yes. So then all of a sudden, we are fake dating. Page 19, quickest fake dating book I've ever read. So that is kind of where we were in the first 19 pages of the book. Obviously, since then, a lot more has happened. I think so far, the fake dating has been going well as far as the writing. Obviously, we're only getting this from one perspective, which is Daisy, so I have no idea what Levi actually feels for Daisy. We only know what Daisy thinks Levi is feeling, and that is that he still thinks of her as a friend. Bella is one of the bridesmaids in this wedding, so she's been around as well. She does things that make you just really dislike her, but then she turns around and the next thing you know, she's doing something that makes you think, oh, maybe she's not so bad after all. Maybe her and Daisy can be friends. So it's a very mixed kind of feeling of what Bella is doing and how she may become involved in this fake dating plot later on. One of the cutest things, though, was when Daisy went to a softball game. It was a softball game for the wedding where the bridesmaid side of the family versus the groom's side of the family played. And Daisy was playing on the bridesmaid side of the family because it was Levi's sister who's getting married. So she hasn't seen his family in 4 years, but his family absolutely loves her. And he has these two little sisters, or twin sisters. I think they're going to like 3rd grade. And as soon as they saw Daisy, they just ran over to her and started hugging her. And Daisy was just so afraid that the family was either going to not like her anymore or forget about who she was. And that did not happen. It was just kind of like a heartwarming little space within this first 100 pages. All right, so that is where we are in the book right now. We are about almost a third of the way in, so I'm going to get back to reading. We've only been reading for an hour and a half out of this 48-hour readathon, so we have a ways to go yet. As far as I can remember, the Here Comes the Sun lyrics, I feel may not match this book, but I'm going to have to reread the lyrics after I finish this book, and then we'll have a quick discussion on how ChatGPT did with matching song with book. So I will be back in a little bit, let you know how this book is going, and I'll see you soon. So you may be wondering why I'm sitting in a cabinet. That's a great question to ask. The reason is that it is tea time. I have my tea cabinet in front of me, and we're going to choose a tea that matches the book. But before we did that, I just wanted to get you updated to where I am in the book and my thoughts. So I am getting close to about 2/3 of the way through the book. And the biggest issue I've had over the past several chapters is that the main character Daisy just is seeming very, very insecure. Like anything anyone tells her at this point, she does not believe. For example, Levi and her went to this ball. Levi told her that she looked beautiful, and when Daisy is walking up the steps to meet Levi, she knows that everyone was kind of looking at her, and she thinks it's not because she's beautiful, but because people are looking at her because they can see all her flaws. And Levi tries to counter that, but she just doesn't want to listen. And that's true as well when she's right now applying for grad school, and she just thinks that her designs are not going to be good enough, that she's not going to get anywhere despite Levi telling her otherwise. So she's just in this very insecure place right now, and I'm hoping that will change as the book continues to go further on. I still can't tell what Levi truly thinks of her, if he's falling in love with her or if he's still thinking of her as a best friend or a brother. It's so annoying that I can't see his viewpoint in this, and all I get is her viewpoint, because when you combine that with her insecurity, you really have no idea what Levi is thinking, which is fine, but it is driving me a little crazy. So we'll see once we get through the rest of the book hopefully what Levi truly thinks about her. We'll see. All right, so that is kind of where we are. When I next update you, hopefully I will have finished the book and I can let you know my final thoughts. But first, we gotta figure out tea time, because it's tea time, which means it's tea time and cookies time, and we can't miss that. I'm half British. That, is against the law. So let me switch this around so you can kind of see the tea choices we are going to choose from. All right, so here are some of the tea choices we have. This is what we are probably going to choose from. I believe that this book is set in the springtime because Daisy is about to graduate from college, and typically graduations are in the springtime. Not always, I realize that. I graduated my master's in December, but for the majority of the cases, they seem to be in springtime, and there's no snow, there's been some rain, so it just gives you that spring feeling. So we need to figure out what we're going to drink. I'm thinking something flowery. There we go. So this is my morning tea because it's extra caffeine. We don't want to be drinking that in the afternoon. We have our stress-free. I think this is rose tea. So we have some rose and mint herbal tea. I usually drink that at night, but that could be something we could do now. We have fall tea. That is not going to do it. That is the opposite of spring. We have New England maple black tea, which is more fallish too. We got, here's some, this has flowers on it. It is let me put it down so I can spin it around. It's our Bridgerton tea assortment from the Republic of Tea. Let's see if there's anything flowery on here. I don't know if any of this really gives me a spring vibe. So we'll put that down for now. Oh, and then here we actually got some hibiscus tea. So this is a flower, obviously. It's a super flower tea. I feel like this is giving some springtime vibes. So hibiscus delivers hints of berry and bright citrus flowers. The bold tropical infusion is pure refreshment, served hot or cold. Super flower power. Let's see. So the hibiscus is a tropical marvel with many health benefits. It hails from Nigeria, where hibiscus tea is known to help cool the body in hot weather. Well, it's not as hot today as it has been. It's only 77. And some antioxidants. All right, I think we'll go with this. It's maybe a little bit more summery than spring, but I mean, flowers start growing in the springtime, so I feel like this is the way to go. Let's do the hibiscus tea and see how it tastes, and I will let you know after I finish the book, and I'll catch you up on what I think about the book, what this hibiscus tea tastes like, and then how the lyrics fit the book. So we have a lot to catch up to once I'm done with the book, so I will see you soon for that. All right, I haven't gotten too much further in the book. I think just one additional chapter. Still working on my tea. It's got a very interesting flavor, but we'll discuss that at the end of the book. I just had to pop in just to tell you what this chapter did. So this chapter was based on what happened in the past when Daisy confessed her love to Levi, and it kind of shows you what happened at that point. And the trope that has been used to kind of build this book on, build the plot on, is a trope that I'm just not a fan of at all. And I typically don't like books that use this trope to set up the entire plot on. I don't know what else I can say without ruining it, because it is halfway through the book, so I don't want to say exactly what the trope is. But just to say that It's not one that I enjoy. It's not like it's something bad happened or anything like that. It's just the usage of this, whether it's used in this type of situation or as the third plot conflict, I just don't like it. We'll have to see if the rest of the book will redeem this, but I'm not going to hold my breath. I know this is kind of like a personal dislike of this trope. So just because I don't like it, other people may be fine with it. Like I said, it's not like a bad, like, controversial or anything like that. It's just a specific trope that is actually used quite frequently in romance books that I'm just not a big fan of, because I think there's better ways to get things done is all. But I'm going to continue on reading the book because I do like the characters. I do enjoy the two main characters. I'm hoping that, like I said before, Daisy will be able to get some self-confidence in her and get out some of those insecurities that she's had for a very long time. And I'm hoping that Levi will, maybe be able to help her through that process. We're going to have to see how things happen in the past are going to affect what is going on now in the book. And we'll go from there. So I'll probably check in when the book is over because there's not much else I'm going to be able to really talk about as far as the plot goes since we're over halfway through. And, I don't want to spoil anything for people reading it. But I will talk to you at the end of the book, and hopefully by then I will have gone through our hibiscus tea, which has a very strong flavor, but it's not too bad. So I'll see you in a little bit. So I finally completed Picking Daisies on Sunday by Liana Cinquetti. And just as a reminder, we had got this book because it matched with Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles. Now, my final thoughts on this book is that overall I did enjoy it. I would probably give it about 3.5 out of 5, but definitely happy that I read it. I enjoyed the plot. I really enjoyed the two characters. I thought that they played well with each other. And I liked how you did see some growth at the end, but not so much that it seemed ridiculous, not reality. I did like how for Daisy, when she was so insecure throughout the book, by the end that you were starting to see little glimpses that she was starting to gain some self-confidence, which was great to see. And I especially like that the author didn't do a full 180 on her personality where she went from being very insecure to very confident, because obviously that's not how it works in the real world. As far as the trope that I did not like that I talked about earlier, the rest of the book actually went okay. So that one chapter I still did not really love, but the way that the author played it off throughout the rest of the book I felt was okay, so it didn't really fully make me not want to read any further on. I thought the rest of it was done pretty reasonably and kind of like what you would think would happen in the real world based on the two characters' personalities. So, like I said, overall, I give it a 3.5 out of 5, which is about my average for romance novels. And I am happy that I got to start off this reading vlog with it. So, quick update on the tea. The color of the tea was amazing. The taste of the tea was so strong. I don't know if I brewed it too long, but oh my gosh, it was a very strong taste. And it was a little bit sweet, even though I didn't add any sugar to it. So it was okay. I would probably give that a C out of A, B, C, D, E. So overall, it was a okay tea. Definitely not my favorite tea. Not sure if I'm going to drink the rest of that canister. But I may try brewing it a little bit less and see if that makes the flavor less strong. We'll see. Anyway, we got to get back to the last part of this review, which is to see how ChatGPT did with matching the book with a song. So the lyrics to Here Comes the Sun was influenced or inspired by a particularly long winter that just kind of went on, and then suddenly in April the sun suddenly appeared, and it's kind of like a dedication to that sun. It's finally showing up. And if you've been in England in the winter, you probably understand how exciting that could be. And while the lyrics were originally based on the change of seasons, surprisingly enough, I think ChatGPT actually did a pretty good job matching the lyrics to the plot. So the plot of the book was how the two main characters, Levi and Daisy, had a little altercation and then went 4 years without seeing each other. So you can kind of think of those 4 years as a very, very long winter. And then all of a sudden, they end up running into each other in the bar, and lo and behold, they become friends again. And that's kind of like, here comes the sun, it's going to be all right now. And the other lyric, it says, I feel that ice is slowly melting. It seems like years since it's been clear. And that's kind of like how their friendship is starting to melt again. They're becoming friends again. So I don't know how ChatGPT did this, but I feel like this was an excellent match. I'm going to give ChatGPT an A for this song going with the book. So there we have it, book 1 of the readathon. Now it's time to hit up the Spotify again and see what book we are going to choose for our second book for this reading vlog. Alright, so I'm just going to hit next on here, and whichever song comes up next is the book we'll be reading. So here we go. Alright, so we got The Raven. Alright, so we will be reading The Night Raven by Johan Rundberg, which is the first book in his The Moonwind Mysteries. So this book is actually set, I think, in Sweden, and was originally written in Swedish maybe, so this is a translated version. So this is a middle grade book. It takes place in the 1880s in Stockholm, Sweden, where the Night Raven is known to be a serial killer that has been stalking the streets. The book follows 12-year-old Micah, who lives in an orphanage in Sweden, and she is just relieved that most likely everyone's going to make it through this winter, especially because the Night Raven has finally been taken off the streets and has been caught. But then a baby is left in the middle of the night in the orphanage by this boy who says some cryptic messages, and a new mystery has kind of started. And then a detective shows up at the orphanage and unwittingly invites Micah into investigating a murder with him, because she has these unique abilities to see the small details and things. And that's kind of where the story goes. So I'm excited to read this. I love reading books set in different countries, and especially when they are originally written in that language, in that country's language rather. And this is also a middle grade book, which means it should be a fast read. And it's less than 200 pages long, so this one shouldn't take me too long to get through. So hopefully I'll be able to finish this one today and then start one more tonight before it is time to go to bed. It's still light out, so we have plenty of time in the day. I think it's like 6 o'clock, so it's a little after 6:30 because I've been reading on and off, which is why it takes me so long to read these books, which is why I'm doing 48 hours instead of 24, because I find it very hard to get a lot of books done in a 24-hour period. So this gives me a little bit longer. Anyway, let's get started with The Night Raven, and I'll check back in with you once I get a good ways through it. So I'll see you guys soon. Alright, so I am now halfway through this book. In the time it took me between 6:30 and 8 to get halfway through this book, including having dinner, it has gone from complete daylight to total darkness. So we are definitely getting closer to fall and to winter, which I'm totally excited about. Plus, darkness seems to be the perfect atmospheric setting for the book that we are currently reading, which is The Night Raven. So let me tell you a little bit, now that I understand a little bit about what's going on, now that I've read the first half versus when I, was looking at the synopsis. So the book follows Micah, who's this 12-year-old girl who is growing up in the orphanage. She's been there since she was a baby, so she knows it very well. She's kind of like a motherly figure for the younger kids, making them breakfast, making sure they're taken care of. If they have nightmares in the middle of the night, she's there to comfort them. One night, she hears knocking at the front door of the orphanage, and she opens the door to find a boy who's older than her, but not yet a man. who's holding a newborn baby in his arms, and he gives the baby to Micah and says that the dark angel knew I took her. And then he just left with Micah holding this baby. So the next day, the police show up to both get Micah's story and to register the newborn. Micah tells them about the boy, what the boy said, and then kind of goes about her life, not really thinking anything else about it. That was just a strange encounter. Then the next day, a detective shows up and he ends up taking her to look at this body that he wants to ask her if it was the boy who showed up at her doorstep the night before or not. Turned out not to be, but she notices some things about the body that the police had missed, and the detective is kind of impressed by her ability to see these details that, trained policemen have missed. So the other thing to know is that the year before, there was a serial killer out in Stockholm just killing people in this very gruesome method. And he ended up being caught and then executed for his crimes. But the body that detective showed Micah was killed in a very similar method. And because of how well Micah did at finding certain details, he actually enlisted her help into investigating this murder. And that is kind of where we are. I would say, so first off, this is a middle grade book according to Goodreads. It does feature a 12-year-old protagonist, but with the serial killer and the dead bodies and the murders that are going on, I feel like maybe it's more of a young adult, older teenager book versus a true middle grade book. That's my first thing. Second of all, this book most reminds me of the Natural series, which is where the group of teenagers is recruited by the FBI for their natural abilities to solve crimes, with the main character's ability to be a profiler, which is exactly what Micah is doing in this book. So even though the books have two very different settings, one's in Washington, D.C., this one's in Stockholm, Sweden, I feel like they are very similar in that way, where Micah has been enlisted to use her unique abilities to help solve this murder, where the way that the victim was murdered is very reminiscent of the Night Raven. All right, so that's where we are. So overall, I'm definitely really enjoying this book. I like the plot. It's very unique and very engaging, and I love how it's set in the 1880s because it just gives it a different kind of feel. I love the detective. He's very gruff, but you know that he is caring, I guess you could say. I think Micah's well written as far as her character goes as well, and I really enjoy the interactions between the two. You can tell that the detective cares about her, but doesn't really want to show it so much. So I'm excited to find out how this book is going to end, what the conclusion of the story is, and what happens to Micah. I'm actually hoping that maybe the detective ends up adopting her, but we'll have to see. This is book one in the series, so, who knows? That could happen. We'll have to find out when we get to the end. It is a fairly short book. It's only 189 pages, and I'm past page 100, so I don't have too much more to go. So I'm hoping to be able to finish this book tonight and then start the next one tonight as well, and then pick it up again in the morning. What time is it? It's 8:30 now, so I'm going to read for another half hour, and then I actually have to give my cat her dinner and her insulin shot, and then I'll check in with you once I finish the book, and we'll choose our third book for this reading vlog after that. I'm interested to see how well this song fits with the book. I'm thinking not too well, since the Night Raven is not an actual raven. But we'll find out. I thought that last time as well, and I was completely wrong. So I'm going to give ChatGPT the benefit of the doubt, and I'll check in with you guys soon. All right, it's 11 o'clock at night. I finished The Night Raven about an hour ago and just wanted to watch some TV before I got ready to read the third book, but I definitely want to get into the third book so I can get some of it out of the way before tomorrow. But first we need to talk about The Night Raven. So I ended up really enjoying this book. I love the plot. I felt it was a very unique plot, and I enjoyed that it was set in the 1880s in Sweden, because that's not really a setting that I've come across before, so that was kind of a unique setting for me. I enjoyed the mystery. It was a mystery that kept moving. Like every chapter was important to solving the mystery, and there wasn't really any sitting around. Everything that came up was contributed to the plot, which was great. It kept the book moving along. And probably was why it was only 187 pages, because there wasn't really any filler chapters at all, which was fine with me. I enjoyed the two main characters. I think the main protagonist, which was Micah, the 12-year-old orphan, was written really well, and the entire book was from her viewpoint. And it was just kind of very interesting to read about her growing up in the orphanage and kind of the different things that she started learning as she became a assistant to the detective, who's the other main character. The detective was written great as well. He was your typical gruff detective, but you could tell that he truly cared about Micah and wasn't just using her for her abilities. And the relationship that the two had was done very well, I thought. And you could tell, like I said, that he definitely cared about her and wanted to make sure that she was safe and well taken care of. The only thing that I would say is that it is, per Goodreads, a middle grade book, but it's definitely something that I would recommend parents take a look at first before allowing their child to read, because they know their children best, obviously. But there is, it is written in the 1880s, so there's a lot of stuff about orphanages and what life was truly like for kids growing up in an orphanage in the 1880s, which obviously it was not an easy life. There's talk about serial killers and murders and going to look at dead bodies. So there's a lot of other things as well that could be disturbing to some children. I say that the book was written really well. The author did a really good job with the plot, moving the plot along. And the translation of the book, because the original book was written in Swedish, it was written by a Swedish author. I thought the translation was really great as well. So other than that, like I said, I definitely enjoyed the book. I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the series. I think the original series, which is written in Swedish, has like 4 or 5 books. Only 2 of them appear to have been translated so far, but I'm hoping that the rest will be eventually. And like I said, I just want to see what happens to Micah and start learning more about her background and where she came from. So I think that's it. We need to look at the lyrics of the song and see how well it fits this book. I have a feeling probably not too well, but I won't know till we look at the lyrics, so let's go pull those up. All right, so here are the lyrics to the song. The song again was Raven, The Raven by the Alan Parsons Project. Very interesting song I've never heard of before. But the song is obviously based off of the Edgar Allan Poe poem called It's the Raven, I believe. Obviously one of his most famous poems. And I'm pretty sure ChatGPT chose this poem because it didn't really know what the plot of the book was and just saw that the title had Raven in it, so it chose this poem. If you look at the lyrics, it doesn't really go along with the mystery we have. So obviously based off of the poem, so I'm going to give ChatGPT a failing grade on this one. Hopefully it will do better on the next song. So let's go ahead and pull up the songs so that we can see what our next book's going to be. All right, so here's where we hit next and find out what our next book is for this reading vlog. Book number 3. So for the song, we have House of Jealous Lovers, which is by The Raptures. So let's go see what that is matched to, because I do not remember. All right, so it looks like we'll be reading The Villa by Rachel Hawkins, which is another mystery book that has been on several of my TBRs that I haven't gotten around to, but I'm looking forward to reading this. I think this is a perfect book to kind of end the summer season with, and I'm hoping that I enjoy it. I know it's popular among people who have read it, so I'll check in with you guys again tomorrow, and I'll let you know how The Villa is going. I'll see you guys soon. Hey everyone, I feel like now is a good time to check in because I am now halfway through The Villa, which I started last night. We're at about lunchtime on the second day, so we have another 24 hours to go, so we're making some progress. I did spend some time on the internet today, but rather than reading, but I'm still happy with where we are in this readathon at the moment. So far, I am enjoying The Villa. It's definitely a mystery book, but very different from the book that we read prior to this, The Night Raven. They're very, very different types of mysteries going on in this book. So for those who haven't read the book, the plot is based out of this villa in Orvieto, Italy, where back in the 1970s, there was a musician that was murdered. The book takes place over two different timelines. It's the current timeline as well as the 1970s timeline. So each chapter starts off with the current timeline, and then the second half of the chapter goes back to the 1970s timeline. So in the current timeline, we're following two best friends, Em and Chess, who have been best friends since they were little, since childhood, but over the years have kind of drifted apart, got back together, drifted apart again. And the two of them decided to go to this villa in Orvieto just to kind of rekindle the friendship that they had. They both happen to be writers. Chess is a nonfiction, kind of like self-help, inspirational writer, and she is doing wonderfully in her career, while Em is a cozy mystery writer who's been writing a cozy mystery series known as Petal Bloom, and she's kind of in the midst of this writer block. Her books sell well, but not as well as Chess, so she's also kind of in this money crunch as well. So the two of them end up going to Orvieto, Italy, and Em starts to become enthralled by this murder that happened in the 1970s, and she wants to kind of figure out what exactly happened and if they caught the right guy or not. And she wants to make a new book out of it and kind of push away her cozy mystery book for now. And then the 1970 portion follows 5 people who are staying at the villa. There's 2 musicians who are Noel and Pierce. Noel is like the famous musician, the famous rock star, while Pierce is kind of like the up-and-coming musician. Then there's Mari, who's married to Pierce, and she ends up starting to write a book while she is living at the villa, kind of like a horror mystery. Then there's Laura, who is Mari's stepsister, who has kind of had a affair with Noel, but Noel isn't really interested in her that much anymore. And then we have Johnny, who's kind of like this hang around of Noel's. So a pretty busy household, your typical like rock star household where there's a lot of, stuff going on. And at some point, Pierce ends up getting murdered, and one of the 5 house guests, obviously not Pierce, so one of the other 4 house guests, ends up being convicted of his murder and put away in jail. So that's kind of how the book is set up. Each chapter starts off with Em and Chess, then we go to the 1970s and we're getting Mari's viewpoint of that summer where Pierce gets murdered in the villa. And then at the end of each chapter, we get either like a news article or a podcast or something of that sort, some media that is discussing what happened back in the 1970s. So we're getting hints of what actually occurred through that type of frame as well. So like I said, overall, I am enjoying the book. It's moving at a fairly good pace. I think the characters have been kind of well established, and I feel like I'm getting to know them as I read through the book, which I always like. And I'm excited to find out what actually happened in that summer of 1970. So the book is definitely making me curious to figure out what happened, how he got murdered, who actually murdered him, and how M's book and research is going to go, because it's starting to cause a little conflict between Em and Chess. So I'm interested to see how that is going to go as well. So that is where we are. We are now, like I said, at noon. So I'm hoping I can finish this book in the next couple of hours so we can get to our 4th book. I am so hoping that our 4th book is a book on my TBR so I can check another one of those off. But there are still some books on this list that are not in my TBR, so we'll have to see how that goes. I'm also interested to see how well the lyrics are going to match this book. I think the song was something about jealous lovers, and there's definitely some jealousy going on in this book, so I have a feeling that ChatGPT may have done a good job picking out the song, but we'll have to see when we get to the end of the book. So I will be checking back in with you once I reach that ending, and I will hopefully see you in a couple of hours. So I will be back soon. Alright, I have finally finished The Villa. I got into a little bit of a slump today from a reading standpoint, so did not read it as quick as I had planned to, but I did get through it, and I would give it about a 3.5 out of 5. The last part of the book just kind of dragged on for me, which I think is why I was having a lot of trouble sticking with it. I just kept getting distracted by computer, TV, my cat, and everything else. The last part of the book just went really slow for me. It just kind of dragged on, and the plot twists just kept coming. And you would think one thing, then something else would happen, and then you would think that way, then something else would happen, and they just kept coming over and over again. But despite that, it just felt really slow, and it was hard for me to keep my mind in the book at the end of it. So, like I said, overall, I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. The characters were fine. I felt like they had depth to them. You ended up not liking a couple of the characters that seemed to be okay at the beginning, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about it. And I am ready to move on to the next book. But before we do that, we do have to look to see how well ChatGPT matched this book with the song. So let's pull up the lyrics. So the song that ChatGPT matched with this book was House of Jealous Lovers, which is by The Rapture. And when you pull up the lyrics, the main lyric is House of Jealous Lovers. One hand ties the other, House of Jealous Lovers. And I think ChatGPT did an excellent job of matching this book to a song, because that was the entire book. The villa was in both the 1970s and in current times. There was just jealousy abound. There was jealousy between the female and male characters that lived in the house in the 1970s. Everyone wanted to hook up with everyone else, and people were jealous between themselves. And then in the I almost said 1980s. In the current time, the two women that were living in the house, Chess and Em, they were kind of jealous of each other for different reasons. Obviously, they weren't lovers, but there were some people that they were kind of jealous about, as well as being jealous of kind of each other's successes. So ChatGPT, it did it again. Great match. I give it A. So let's go on and choose we're not choosing, but let's go on and see what our fourth book is. All right, so here is where the songs are played through Spotify. So we are going to hit the next button, and you know the drill. Whatever song comes up, we'll match that book, and that is what we'll be reading. So here we go. All right, so we got Shadows by Lindsay Sterling. Shadow matches with City of Glass, which is the third book in Cassandra Clare's Shadow Hunter / Mortal Instrument series. So this is a book that takes place in New York City, and it follows the main character, Clary, as she starts to learn about shadow hunters, werewolves, vampires, as she's drawn into that world. So it's kind of like a YA urban fantasy series. And the nice thing is this book is on my August TBR, so we are going to be able to check off another book from my August TBR list and get one book closer to finishing that off. So I am going to start reading this. I'll probably check in with you later on tonight and let you know how far I am. This is a longer book. I think it's over like 500 pages. But the writing is big. It is written for YA, so hopefully I will be able to get through this one fairly fast, and faster than I got through the Villa, because that one was only like 279 pages and took me way too long. So I will check in with you later tonight and let you know how this one is going. I'll see you then. All right, I am about 100 pages into this book. It's 9 o'clock at night now, and I'm about to go feed my cat, give her insulin, and then I'm probably going to start getting ready for bed so I can get comfortable to read the rest of this book, or at least probably not the rest of it tonight, but at least a good chunk of it tonight. So this is probably the last time I'm going to check in tonight, and then I will get back with you guys in the morning. But so far, I'm enjoying it. I said in other videos that I really did not enjoy the first book in this series, and I think that's because I watched the TV show before I read the book, and it just wasn't very engaging to me because I kind of already knew what happened. I feel like the second book and so far this book have gone away from the TV show, as far as at least I remember what happens in the TV show, but it's been a very long time since I watched it. So I think I feel more engaged with this book because I don't know what's going to happen. So everything that's happening is a surprise and it keeps my attention. I really don't have much else to say because this is the third series, or this is the third book in the series. So I can't really discuss too much of the plot because then I'll probably be spoiling the first two books. But overall, enjoying reading it. The first 100 pages felt like it went fast, so hopefully the next 400 and some pages do as well. Like I said, I'm going to continue reading this tonight, but I probably will not check in tonight since there's no way I'm going to finish it tonight. So I'll check in with you guys in the morning for the last day. This reading-a-thon is supposed to end at noon, so this will probably be the last book that I do for this reading vlog. I feel like 4 books is pretty good. That's why I extended it to 48 hours so I could do other things during the reading vlog and didn't have to focus my entire time on reading because I am not good at that. And I think this 48-hour method goes well because I don't feel like I'm getting bogged down by trying to read as many books as I can. So anyway, I will see you guys in the morning and hopefully I will either be very close to finishing this book or maybe even have finished it. We'll have to find out. So I'm going to go feed my cat, give her insulin, and then get back to reading. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow morning. I'll see you soon. I have done it. I have completed the last book for this reading vlog, the 4th and final book, which is City of Glass by Cassandra Clare. And it is the 3rd book in her Mortal Instrument series, which is a series featuring shadow hunters, fae, werewolves, warlocks, vampires, you know, all the different creatures that appear in fantasy novels. So because this is the 3rd book in the series, there's not much I can really say about it because obviously I don't want to spoil what happened in the first 2 books. I will say that I enjoyed this book. I've enjoyed the progression of the characters through the first 3 books. If you watch the TV show, there are definitely things that are similar to the TV show, and then there are things that are very different from the TV show, which is nice because it does keep me more engaged when I don't know exactly what's going to happen, even though I watched the TV show before. I would probably give this somewhere around the 3.75 to 4. And the one thing I do have to say is that the epilogues in these books are so long. I think this epilogue was like 40 pages long. And at that point, I just feel like you should call it a chapter. That's really the one main thing that bothered me in this book. Oh, and the other thing is that the only map that is in this book, at least, is the map of New York. And there's no map of Idris, which is the home of the Shadowhunters and where a good portion of this book takes place. And I think that would have been a nice addition as well. All right, so that's all I have to say about the book itself. It did take me a good portion of the day to get through this book because I kind of read it on and off throughout the day. But the last thing that we have to do is to look at the lyrics and see how good ChatGPT did at matching a song to this book. All right, I grabbed my iPad. Let me bring up Spotify. All right, so the song that was chosen again for this book was Shadows, which is by Lindsay Sterling. I don't know if this has lyrics on here. All right, so there's no lyrics on Spotify for this song, so we are going to have to look for that elsewhere. All right, and the reason that there is no lyrics is that this song is purely instrumental. So there we have it. So the song has no lyrics, so that makes it very difficult to compare the book with the song. I did take a quick listen to the song. It's a very kind of upbeat, fast-paced song that has a little bit of Celtic vibes and a little bit of, I don't even know, like techno vibes to it. I could be totally wrong. But I don't know if it really fits the book as well as some of the other songs did. So I think I would maybe give this a C for matching a song to a book for ChatGPT, so kind of in the middle. If you've read this book before, take a listen to the song and let me know in the comments below what you think. All right, so overall, we did 4 books, 4 songs, And I think ChatGPT overall did a pretty good job at matching songs with books. It was about 50%, I guess. It got about half of them right for the ones that we read, but I think that's pretty good. I had a lot of fun with this challenge, and I'm definitely going to do it again in the future. I love kind of at the end of reading the book, coming back to Spotify and kind of critiquing how well ChatGPT did on matching the song to the book. So I definitely want to do this again for a future reading vlog. We are almost at the end of August. I have 3 more books left on my August TBR. So I'm very hopeful that I can get through them by the end of this month. I think we have 7 more days left, so about a week. For me, I only have to start the book by the end of the month to count it. So I think I can definitely do that. I think the books I have left are Mistborn, A Fragile Enchantment, and Hooved Homicide, which is a super short book, so I'm going to start that one next. I think I can get it out of the way pretty quickly. The next video that comes out for me will be my September TBR. We are headed already into another month, and I'm excited to see what new books we'll be putting onto that TBR. Hopefully some like dark academia books, because I feel like that's the perfect type of book for September. Thank you again so much for joining me for this reading vlog. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed recording it. And if you did, please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see future videos from me, especially my upcoming TBR video, please hit the subscribe button. I hope the rest of your August goes well and that you get through the TBR that you want to get through by the end of the month, and then we can all jump into September and get excited about the start of fall. Thank you once again for joining me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!